Hey everybody, this is Kenny with another edition of the Yak with Mac. Welcome back. This week we talk to Senior Director of the Frontline Experience, Denise Vidal. She gets into imposter syndrome, so much more. Listen in. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Yak with Mac. And I have to say this again, but man, I mean it. Prepare to be inspired and prepare to also take action and take notes. As I got just a wonderful opportunity to meet this terrific leader a few weeks back, and I can't wait for her to share her experience and her knowledge and her advice with you this morning. So without further ado, we're jumping right in. I want to introduce the Senior Director of the Frontline Experience, Denise Vidal. Denise, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, and welcome to the show. It is so great for you to take the time. I know how busy you are, but boy, oh boy, you just lit my world up a few weeks ago, and I can't wait for you to light everybody's world up with some of the great advice that you've had that you're going to offer this morning. And so I think let's start here. I would love for the audience to really hear about your career journey, and you can go back as far as you'd like to go back. Walk us through your career journey and what got you to this place here right now.
Well, if I go way back, I can tell you after graduating from school, I became a military wife and then came back into the civilian world, as we would call it, and really was a little step behind in what I technology-wise for some reason, and had to come up to speed really, really quick. Ended up getting a really cool job as an account manager for vendors similar to what we use with Global today, and then thereafter joining T-Mobile as the Fort Lauderdale Senior Director, then Director. Later on, I came to headquarters where I took over responsibility for several different departments: retention, methods and procedures, L&D, and from there I grew into a new role taking responsibility for all things quality, customer experience, frontline experience, and really we just try to make life easier for both our frontline and our customers today. And today I have responsibility for 5 different departments: our FLEI Insights, L&D, leadership development, third-party benchmarks, and quality.
Wow, that is awesome. That's quite the journey. And now I want to go back a little bit because you've had a lot of lessons learned along this journey that I'd love for you to pass on to the audience here. So talk about a few lessons that you've learned along that journey.
Wow, there are so many. I think part of the lessons that I learned, one, I would say as a leader in a call center, is really listen to your front line, be really curious, don't stop process improvements, because your front line is always going to tell you what's going wrong and what is dissatisfying our customers. And so I think it's really important that you establish that relationship. And I think to me, that's always been my grounding whenever things aren't working, even no matter what role I'm in, when things aren't working, to me, it's all about the front line and listening to the front line.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I moved to headquarters, I kind of was a fish out of water. They asked me to move out there and take additional responsibility. It wasn't during the best time at T-Mobile. It was during the potential AT&T merger. So we had to do a lot with very little resources. And I think that's probably, that was probably a huge defining moment in my career. Not only did I take on new responsibilities, but I also had to learn how to navigate. When you think about being a leader in a call center, you kind of pave the way and set the tone and help set the culture, and you're almost like a small mayor of a small city. But I think it almost felt in headquarters like I was just like a small fish in a huge pond, and I had
Wow.
to really learn how to navigate and find my way. I think that was probably one of the most difficult times in my career.
So Denise, how did you do that? What were some things that you did that got you through that time? Because you used an expression with me the other day. I'm going to let you say it. That when I had never heard it before, but when I went back to some of my team, they were like, "Yeah, I feel that way all the time." And I said, "I talked to this senior director. I just met this terrific leader who I couldn't believe that you had revealed that to me, that you had felt a certain way." Talk a little bit more about that, and then how did you get past some of that?
Yeah, I think I refer to it as imposter syndrome. And I
Yes.
think for me, just growing up, in a humble means, I'm Hispanic and grew up in New York. And, I just never felt like I quite belonged. But then making that shift, going to headquarters where I felt, very different than everyone else. I felt like I talked a little bit differently than everyone else. And, um, I just didn't understand the lingo to a certain extent. I mean, there were times where I was in meetings and people actually said no to me, and I didn't even understand they actually said no because they never used the word no. And when you feel that way and you're working with all these brilliant people, because I have to tell you, all over T-Mobile, whether it's a call center or HQ, you're dealing with brilliant people. But when you don't feel like you measure up, I think I refer to it as imposter syndrome. You're showing up and you really don't feel like you belong there. You don't feel like you're worthy to be there, even though I can really talk to many of my successes now and reflect back and think, wow, you really did belong there. But at the time, I didn't feel that way. And it was crippling. Like, it's really crippling when you feel less than. And you're showing up to meetings and you feel like you really don't belong there. And I think for me, later on, I learned that that's referred to as imposter syndrome, and I definitely went through that.
Denise, that's amazing that you revealed that. It was amazing you revealed that to me a few weeks ago, and amazing that you reveal that now. And again, I had never heard that, and I was really surprised as I asked. I had 3 people on my team that said, "Yeah, I sometimes still feel that way." And I guess you gave some really specific things that you did to help you get past that. What give some advice? What because there's a lot of leaders. I think maybe it's a newly promoted leader of a retail store, a newly promoted team leader in care that is probably feeling that way. But you did some really specific things to get you past that. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think one thing I did is I seeked out like a mentor that I can trust and really be vulnerable with and say, I don't understand this. I actually don't understand this language. I need your help. Am I positioning this correctly? Whenever I had to go to show up for a presentation or anything, there are people that are so many people that are willing to help you. And I ended up finding gems that really I could bounce things off of and be vulnerable. I think the other thing is not being afraid you don't know. I mean, today I could tell you my team is built of so many smart people, way smarter than I am. And I am not shy about saying, hey, I need you to take a step back. I really need to get better grounded. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to contribute. I think it's really, really important to just say you don't know. And I think lastly, you must come from a place of curiosity. If you go in a room, and I think I see this with people that get promotions, they become way more hesitant to say they don't know something, and you lose that sense of curiosity. And I think that's where the mistakes come. And so just coming from a place of curiosity and asking questions is crucial. And I know I said that was last, but I think the other thing is, when you're going out and you do have those successes and that you worked hard towards something, it's the right thing, and go out and tell your story. Like, don't let anyone else tell your story. Like, go out there, try to get some time with your leaders and really walk them through what your ideas are, what your vision is, and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think for me, it was easy and still remains really easy to do those types of things, because if you just keep your focus on the customer and the front line, I would tell you can't lose. Because that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going to win if you stay focused on the customer in the front line.
Wow. And I love the don't let anyone else tell your story for you, tell your own story. I love that. And so you've given some terrific advice there. Let's switch gears for a second, Denise. What are some things that you see leaders out there doing today that you go, yeah, continue that? And conversely, what are some, a couple of things that you'd like to see leaders get better at?
Sure. I really love when lots of times people get on my calendar or people on my team, et cetera, just to say, hey, I would like to understand what you do better. I would like to understand the lay of the land better, et cetera. I think you just have to step out of your circle and understand there's a way bigger world out there within T-Mobile, and you are probably have the exact talents that are needed to go ahead into that role. I think a lot of people, especially in care, stay in care. I'm kind of guilty of doing that. And in hindsight, I wish that I had, explored digital more or explored marketing more or even like engineering. Like I am so curious about those things, and it's never too late. I still set up meetings and try to find out, because it could only make me deliver better. But just branch out and learn as much as you can about the entire organization and step outside of care without any other agenda other than, you want to learn. I think that's awesome. A big one. I think I don't see enough people really taking advantage of the educational opportunities that T-Mobile offers. I could tell you this past year, I just in May got my master's after being with T-Mobile for so many years. I mean, it's awesome. An offer T-Mobile provides, and why not? Like, yeah, you have your day job. Yes, it's a little hard, but wow, what a huge benefit. And I just don't see enough people taking advantage of that, and I wish more people would. And I think, as far as what I think people could do better is, along the same lines of what I just mentioned, they stay in their silo and don't branch out. You've got to branch out of your silo. And don't wait till you want a promotion. Don't wait till you're ready to apply for a job. Start now.
Wow. That is some fantastic advice. One other thing you talked about when we spoke a few weeks back was guarding your reputation and how important that is to you. Talk a little bit about some specific things that I could do or anyone could do to really enhance their reputation and really guard it.
Yeah, I think, when I had an aha moment not that long ago. I applied for a job and I didn't get it, but the experience and the journey that I went through was so empowering to me, because it gave me an opportunity when I think about, okay, what has my signature on it at T-Mobile? And I was able to really look back at everything I've done, and I know that I fueled that effort, and to me, it's make sure that you not only have your resume with your education and what role, you fulfill, but you should always ask yourself throughout your career, what signature am I leaving behind? What did I do to make the organization better? What did I do to help employees' lives, enrich employees' lives, et cetera? And I can look back and say, okay, pretty much every year or every 2 years, I did something pretty significant that's long-lasting within the organization. And for me, during those times when I did it, I made sure that I took the time to socialize what I was doing, both to gain, get buy-in, but also to make sure that, yeah, I'm going to make sure that people understand everything that I'm trying to accomplish for our organization and for our customers and our front line. And I mentioned it before, but, you know, it's just my motto of make sure you tell your own story so no one else is telling it for you. And be proud of the things that you're doing and your accomplishments and own them.
That is such sound advice, and that's very specific on reputation, because a lot of times that could be very general, right? Oh, just guard your. You gave us some really specific things on there.
Yeah,
There
it's
was
not
one
like
other
anyone's
word.
out there ruining a reputation. It's more like, how are you
Yeah,
owning? I think another way to put it is, how are you owning your personal
how
brand?
you own it. Absolutely, your personal brand, no doubt. There was one other word I jotted down, and I kind of remember what you said, and I highlighted it here. You talked a lot about having patience in your career. Speak a little bit about that, because that's something that we don't always have. We sometimes want to move up, yesterday, but you talked a lot about having patience and really learning and being curious. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that for me, one of the things that even as a leader and as a mom, I struggle with is, you know, a lot of people want things now. They, you know, this has been for me a very long journey, and sometimes, you know, other people get opportunities that you may sit back and feel like, wow, I wanted that opportunity, or I deserve that opportunity, et cetera. I personally feel that we do have to have patience and give ourselves the grace. And for every 6 months or year that maybe you don't get a role that you're aspiring to get, what you have to do is look at that like precious time to refine yourself,
Wow.
precious time
Wow.
to educate yourself, precious time to really, you know, set yourself up for success, to really be unrivaled the next time you're up for that role. You know, I think sometimes people get really disappointed and it impacts them in negative ways. And the thing is if you look around at T-Mobile, there are so many talented people, so many. There, you know, I mean, I work with so many incredible people that, yeah, I know that the competition is fierce. And when you get out there, you want to make sure you set yourself up for success. But if you don't get that role initially, give yourself some grace, have some patience, and look at that time like, okay, I have time to be bigger, better, stronger, more knowledgeable, more grounded, to set myself up for success the next time.
Man,
A lot of
I
times,
got goosebumps. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think people chase money sometimes, and that's just not, it's, you got to have a passion for something too, I think.
Oh, Denise, that's just unbelievable. Look at, if you don't get the position, have that patience to look at it as precious time. That is, man, oh man, that is just phenomenal advice. And we don't look at it that way. That's really flipping the script. We're like, we get angry. Oh man, I didn't get the job, whatever, We
Yeah.
don't look at that. Gives us more time to grow, gives us that next opportunity. Something else is going to come along. I love that. Definitely words to live by. All right, I got one more question. I'm going to throw a curveball at you just a little bit, because through us speaking before, we almost accidentally found out we're kind of from the same place. I grew up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
You grew up in the city. Yeah. And so I know that, you're down in Florida now. That's great. What's one or two things you miss about being in New York?
Well, I was actually born in the Bronx as well. And I think, to me, Broadway shows for sure. I am passionate about that. But I used to go to Central Park so much. That was like if I was stressed out or anything, that just used to be my go-to. And
Really? Okay.
Walking or running in the park, but I love Central Park, and that's probably one of the biggest things I miss there.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
a place.
I mean,
And shopping, of course.
of course, yeah. I mean, listen. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'll just say this. There's no place like New York City. I'm not objective with that. I mean, I'm still a New Yorker. I'm on Long Island now, but I just, yeah. No place like the city. And for some reason, I knew before you told me that you were from New York. I don't know. Don't ask me how I knew that. I just. Just pick that up, you know?
Yeah, I've been in Florida for about like 2 years now, and I do miss it. I do miss it, but not sad about missing the whole like COVID thing. But yeah, I miss it. I go back a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Well, you have to let me know next time you're back because I would love to meet you in person.
Oh, that would
Yeah,
be great. Of course.
absolutely. Absolutely. Denise, this has been outstanding. And thank you. What a lot of folks don't know is that you got up super, super early because you're traveling. And I know how busy you've been and you really wanted to still do this. And I so appreciate it. And this is going to be so inspirational for leaders, especially new leaders just starting out. But I think all of the things you said is really great advice for all of us and all of us to follow. And what a great example you are of that. So thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us
It's been my
today.
pleasure.
Absolutely. So, folks, this has been Kenny and Denise. This has been the Yak with Mac, and we'll talk to you next week.
I love Yak with Mac.